Welcome to Focus. Now, they have synagogues, schools, hospitals, an association and even a member of parliament. I'm talking about a group of Jews living not in Israel but in another country. Nothing unusual about that, you might think, unless you heard that the other country was Iran. It is 2,700 years now that Jews have lived in Iran, mostly accepted and protected by the Iranian regime. Today on France 24, we have a special day of programmes on Iran, and for Focus, Pascal Bourgault has been to visit the Jews living there.
Daniel is celebrating his bar mitzvah in one of Tehran's largest synagogues. In Iran, the Jewish community can follow its traditions freely. For the big day, Daniel and his brother Ilyas have invited a group of friends, some of whom are Muslim.
It's not frowned upon. We're very good friends. Religion is not an issue amongst us.
Freedom of worship, yes, but not total freedom. In their family, some subjects remain sensitive, such as Israel.
If Israel attacked Iran, I don't know. I can't give you a straight answer now. We don't know if there'll be a war or not.
In the room next door, the ceremony continues. Guests enjoy the food and a glass of wine.
It's a 30-year-old wine.
Wine is considered holy in Jewish tradition. It's one of the few exceptions authorized by the Islamic Republic where alcohol is forbidden.
There's nothing to worry about with small quantities, and even for larger ones. Even if we have more, we've never had any problems.
Daniel's uncle owns a jewelry shop in the city's bazaar. Iranian Jews can find their career choices limited, especially in the public sector or in the army. However, they have a reputation for being the kings of the bazaar.
I am only Jewish this market after 100 years.
In this shop, people buy and sell gold, a popular way of investing money.
They're very good people, I should say, very generous. And I think so my mom used to buy the gold from their dad long time ago. So it's one of the old shops we come over.
In Iran, the Jewish community has its own official schools and associations subsidized by the regime. The leader of one association is grateful, but remains critical of Ahmadinejad's controversial statement on the Holocaust.
There have been discussions about the issue, and although I respect the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, personally, I think that even if only one Jew had been killed during World War II because of his religious affiliation, it would still have been a crime and must be condemned.
Another institution for the community is the Jewish Hospital of Tehran. It's also subsidized, but most of its patients are Muslim.
This hospital is a symbolic and pragmatic view of the tolerance in Iran, a system which Iranian Jew and other Iranian people, Muslim people, and even some Christian people, we have some Christian personnel and physicians here, working together for all of the Iranian nation.
Dr. Morsedek is both Jewish and a patriot, yet rebuts accusations of dual loyalty.
Anyone who wants to destroy our national interest is enemy. It does not differ for us that it's called Israel or it's called Iraq. We are ready to defend against NATO, against USA, and against Israel.
This doctor is also a member of parliament and defends the interests of Iran's 10,000 Jews. Ironically, Iran's Jewish community is one of the biggest and most important in the Middle East after Israel and Turkey.
Fascinating report there. Well, joining me now here on set to discuss this is Richard Prasquier, who's president of the Representative Council of French Jewish Institutions here in France. Thanks so much for being with us today. I mean, watching that report there, it does seem quite incredible, doesn't it, how much freedom the Jewish people there are given to celebrate their religion?
It is true that in the Muslim countries, the only two countries where there is still a sizable Jewish community, at least in Middle East, are Turkey and Iran. We didn't know how many Jews there were there, and the usual numbers, the figures were about 25,000 and sometimes less, 13,000. The last census last year showed that there are 8,500 Jews in Iran. Means that there is still a small population of Jews, much smaller than what it was, let's say, 60 years ago, and it was probably 150,000 Jews.
Watching the report there, were you quite surprised at how much apparent freedom there is for them?
Well, this is also a showcase for the regime. We have to understand that Iranian Jews are among have been living in Iran 2,700 years, which means 2,000 years more than before Islam came to this country. So they are really very, very old dwellers in these countries. And they are not immune to attacks. There were recently two murders on Jews, and at least one was religiously. The reason was religious. The other one, I'm not sure. And it is clear that these Iranian Jews, although they live they can practice peacefully, they are in a very awkward position in a regime when the president is a Holocaust denier.
And presumably the big fear expressed within that report as well is that if there is some kind of military action between the US and Israel and Iran, then that could get an awful lot worse.
Yes, it is true, and I was surprised by the courage of these one of the people who were interviewed, and who said and who clearly showed that he has some reluctance and he has some fear and what will be going on if there is a war with Israel.
Do you fear for their safety?
Well, I think we might fear for their safety. We do not forget that 12 years ago, when Mr. Khatami was the president of Iran, 13 Jews from Shiraz, if I remember, were considered to be spies and were threatened with hanging. And there was an international reaction that worked at that time, and it was other times also from Iran. Khatami is not Ahmadinejad. And so these 13 Jews were not hanged, but there was the threat was there. So in some ways, these people are hostages, and they know it, and we should do nothing that might endanger their security.
And if their security is in danger, do you think there is anything that you and Jewish people living here in France or right across the world can do to help them?
We will definitely react. Will it help? It's very difficult to think that pressures will change the Iranian regime as it stays now. This is something that we know about the sanctions, the economic sanctions about the nuclear, the nuclear military advancement in Iran. But we will definitely react, and we know that these people they chose to remain in Iran, and it is something that can be understood because of the tradition, because of the language, because all those years. But we know also that their situation is very, very fragile.
We'll have to leave it there. Richard Presquier, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. Richard Presquier, President of the Representative Council of French Jewish Institutions here in France. That was Focus today here on France 24. Stay with us.